So I know how these worst lists on YouTube usually go at the end of the year. You make some sort of big complaint about how horrible the movies were this year or how good the movies were this year. That's not what I'm going to do right now. Rather, I have something else to complain about. The movies that came out this year, and yes, there were a couple of them, weren't necessarily bad, and they weren't necessarily good. They were just kind of movies. Like, honestly, can you guys name a single movie that came out this year that people actually lost their minds over? No, The Tiger King doesn't count.
I've had my days of coke, I had my days of drinking, I had my days of meth.
So all in all, while I do have a top 10 list of the worst movies that came out in 2020, they're just kind of boringly bad in the most basic way. It's really sad, actually. I would have rather get some really aggressively horrible bad movies this year.
Oh my god!
Remember Cats? Cats was fun, right? Why can't we go back to Cats? So without any further ado, let's take a look. Number 10 is Spree. I'll be honest, this movie was a little bit at a disadvantage with me from the moment that I first heard about it, mostly because I treat any horror movie that takes on the focus of social media first and foremost with a little bit of suspicion. It's not that those movies can't be good, it's just that en masse, I think that they tend to be a little bit this boomerish mentality.
If you're not documenting yourself, it's simple, you just don't exist.
So that was what I was a little bit concerned about when I went into Spree, and that isn't necessarily what I got. I do think that there is something behind Spree that could have formed a much better story, and to make that worse, we have Joe Keery in the lead, and he is actually really good in it.
Get your rig together.
It's just that the plot is so basic. We've seen this before. It's every single I want to get famous story, just with a little bit of a social media twist. And to make matters worse, it's filmed in horrible and unbelievable shaky cam. If you want to see this idea of someone who desperately wants to get famous and is willing to go to literally any length to do that, 2020 actually did give us a more interesting version of that story with Scare Me. I would definitely recommend checking that out far before you watch Spree. Number 9, Hubby Halloween. Adam Sandler needs to stop.
So would you lose your thermos?
Oh, that'll never happen.
Anyway.
Number 8, The Craft Legacy. This one really hurts me, you guys. The original Craft is one of my all-time favorite movies. Fairuza Balk is a queen.
We are the weirdos, mister.
Who deserves to be respected. And she actually did return for a cameo in this many years late sequel. As much as I am definitely willing to do anything for a witch movie, this just felt so uninspired. For some strange reason, I left with this impression that the entire movie was filmed by Claire's. The clothing store that every single 14-year-old girl loses her mind over because suddenly she can afford jewelry. That's what this movie was made by. I mean that it was styled by Claire's, I mean that it was probably directed by Claire's, because it was definitely produced by some sort of big corporation, not a human being was involved in this movie. That being said, it is rather low on the list because there were a couple of things that I did like about it. I'm still a witch at heart, and I very much enjoyed the magic elements. I liked that they tried to be very faithful to the Wiccan tradition. I did enjoy that they gave us a transgender witch because, as much as this probably isn't going to be common knowledge to most people, there is a tiny little bit of controversy within the witch community about whether or not transgender people have a place there because, of course, TERFs are everywhere. Anyway, point is, there were a couple of things thrown in here and there that I did enjoy, but my biggest problem with them was that everything else was just so bland and uninspired and careless that it just kind of made the good things feel like a bigger slap in the face to me as a fan of the original movie. And then we got that little cameo of Fairuza Balk at the end, and as much as I really wanted to see that, like I did mention that in my trailer reaction, I was hoping that she would come back. And when she did, it just kind of was like, hey, fans, here's this thing that you really liked about the original movie. We brought back absolutely nothing else that you liked about the original movie, but we'll throw in like 3 seconds of a little reminder of why you're here after all, so that maybe you won't leave this movie hating it completely. You'll just hate it like for the most part. Hey, remember when I said that I wasn't passionate about any of these choices? Number 7, body cam. I think that my biggest problem with this movie was honestly that it wasn't what I expected it to be. That, and it came out in the year of 2020, the year where Black Lives Matter became a much bigger topic than it ever was before. So here we are getting a movie with the subject of police officers and the body cams that they have to wear. Interesting, right? It sounds potentially hugely political in that way. That's what it set up in the year of 2020. And I'm not gonna say that there weren't any politics involved, because there definitely were. It's just that if you're gonna call your movie Body Cam, cast a black woman as your lead police officer, and then release it in this our year of 2020, I was expecting a lot more than I actually got. That being said, the paranormal special effects were actually pretty decent, so that's why it's so low on the list. Number 6, Gretel and Hansel. For some reason, it actually pains me to put a movie on this list that's directed by the son of an actor that I actually really like.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
But alas, here we are, Gretel and Hansel. Visually, this movie was stunning. Again, we got some witches, and I'm a big fan of witches. It's just that the plot was extremely underdeveloped and very boring. If it wasn't for the fact that this movie is pretty, I would not have been able to sit through it. Number 5, Bit. Bit is a little feminist vampire movie, and I like what it was trying to do. If you want a much more detailed account of my thoughts on Bit, I would definitely recommend checking out my video. I did take issue with the movie's approach to feminism. As much as I like that it was trying to have a discussion, I don't think that it actually had a discussion. I think that it just kind of man-hated for an hour and a half and then left us with nothing. There was nothing about the issues that women face. There was no exploration of gender roles or anything like that. Overall, for a movie with a transgender lead that set out to be a feminist vampire movie, I wanted a lot more. Not to shamelessly self-promote or anything, but if you want a much better vampire story, my book is released May 17th and is available for pre-order anywhere that you can find ebooks. Number 4, The Turn-In. This is another one that's probably on the list because it's not what I wanted it to be. The Turn-In is an adaptation of The Turn-In of the Screw, which is a classic of Gothic literature. I was really excited to see a new Gothic movie. The last one that I can remember being really blown away by was Crimson Peak. What the f was this movie? First of all, it's just really boring. And I know that the Gothic genre is a much more subtle version of horror, but regardless, you can still do Gothic and make it interesting. Have conversations.
I knew it! Someone's at the door! You're not his sister! I am.
Create an eerie atmosphere. There's ways to do it. You don't have to just bore us for the entire runtime. Also, the acting kind of left something to be desired from pretty much everyone.
Rose, tell her to stop or I'm gonna die!
Stop the car!
And to make matters worse, it all just culminates in an end that was just very poorly presented. I'm sorry, it didn't make sense the way that it was presented. It was just, oh my god, why was this whole movie just, why? Number 3, Underwater. I hate that this is so high on the list at this point. Like, we're literally in the top 3, and I'm still putting movies on the list because they were boring. Not because they were bad, just because I didn't care about them. I just sat there bored for an hour and a half. That was this movie too. And again, it's another one that I hate putting on the list because it has an actress that I like in it. I like Kristen Stewart. I wanted to support her. I like that she was in a movie with her cute little buzz cut because it seems that movies want to give her longer hair and I like the short shaved. It looks nice on her. This was cool. I wanted to support this movie, but it was just so boring. The ending, okay, the ending was decent. It kind of got to a like weirdly, slightly Lovecraftian place. It was kind of cool, but it didn't make up for an entire runtime of boring, and if you want to know part of the reason why it was boring, because I do actually have an explanation this time. This time the problem was that they didn't take time to establish anything. The movie basically just jumps straight into the action from minute 1. So the only thing that you understand is happening is that we are underwater, as indicated by the presence of water and, you know, the title, and Kristen Stewart is in it. So basically, if you saw the poster, then you know everything that the audience knows for the entire length of this movie. Why didn't they just bother establishing characters, make you care about them, give you stakes, make you want to see them survive? Because right now, the only reason why I care about Kristen Stewart is because of her career outside of this movie.
Sort of fervent question that was demanded of me for so long is now ridiculous.
That's true.
Number 2, Brahms The Boy 2. This is another one that I did a review for, so if you want a more detailed explanation of my thoughts for this one, again, my thoughts haven't changed a whole lot since I did that one. You can go check it out. Brahms The Boy 2 is obviously a sequel to The Boy. And The Boy was this slasher movie with a slightly supernatural mystery to it. Spoilers for The Boy, it ends in a very natural way. There is a scientific-ish explanation for everything. Brahms The Boy 2 went that noise, threw everything from the last movie out the window, and gave us a very generic, very boring ghost story. Thank you, Brahms The Boy 2. What I needed was more disappointment this year. Number 1, The Grudge. Oh, does this just explain the entire year of 2020 and its entire movie releases? Some catchphrases that I've said in this list. This movie was boring. Boringly boring, boring. I expected more. It wasn't what I expected it to be. It's not what I wanted it to be. The Grudge was yet another introduction into the Ju-on series, something that I kinda thought that America had given up with more or less when they realized that all of their movies were terrible. Only the Japanese movies are actually worth watching. But apparently it was decided that in our year of 2020, another disaster needed to come our way, so we got The Grudge. I will give 2020's Grudge this. It does have some really gory and some pretty creative special effects, and that was enough to keep me watching the entire movie, which is almost worse because I wish I had turned it off from the beginning. The main reason why I put this movie so high on the list is just because I hope America stops making Grudge movies, because I'm just so sick of them.
Stop it.
There is a universe where this pandemic didn't happen and this list probably had a lot more movies on it, but alas, this was 2020. Thank you so much for watching, my pets, and I will see you next time when I give my list of the best movies of 2020. Help.
Now I'm telling these son of a bitches.
Well, it ain't Barney the Purple Dinosaur. Garbage Day!
Although donating to my Patreon is unnecessary, it is hugely appreciated. As little as $3 a month could help me put out many more videos. In that note, I would like to thank Wilson L. Ricks III, Scott Falks, and Andre K. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. I can't wait to see you all next time.